Many people seem to get confused between the terms legal, lawful, illegal, unlawful, legitimate, illegitimate, obligated, obligation, and all of these different words. So in this video, I'm just going to discuss some of these and hopefully shed a little bit of light on it. So the overarching position is this. It is more a case of meaning and the meaning conveyed and the meaning understood as against the word that's used itself. Allow me a moment to explain. So many people talk about the words legal as against the word lawful. But the trouble is, many people use them interchangeably to mean effectively the same thing. So if one is using either one of these words interchangeably for meaning the same thing, then of course the meaning of it is going to be the same because that is the meaning that the person is using it for. However, in the strictest sense, there is a subtle difference between the two. Lawful being the easiest to differentiate because lawful would be something that is in compliance with the law, or something is done lawfully, as in it has been done in compliance with the law, the rules, the legislation, and so on. The word legal, however, at least when it's used in the same context, is when someone refers to something as being legal, and what they mean by that is doing it is legal, as opposed to illegal or unlawful. But strictly speaking, legal would typically refer to something as a legal case, a legal matter, a legal book, the legal profession, and so on. So in the strictest sense, if you were referring to something as being done in compliance with the law, I would say that you should really say that this is lawful, as in what you are doing is lawful. It is in compliance with the law. Whereas if somebody says it is legal to do X, then of course most people are going to understand what this means. So it doesn't change or lose any of the meaning, because the meaning, to coin a phrase, is essentially in the eye of the beholder. Let's take a scenario where this debate ended up in court and essentially there was an argument over the meaning of the words and what the person said and what effect it should have. Well, in this situation, it would be very much like a contract. The court would look to determine what the meaning behind the words was, what the parties intended, what they agreed, and so on. So for argument's sake, if a contract were somewhat badly worded, but it said it is legal under this contract to do X, then the meaning is obvious that the contract permits the action of X. So it wouldn't really matter whether it said it is legal, it is lawful, or in accordance with the contract, or whatever. If the meaning is ultimately the same as what the parties intended, it doesn't necessarily what words were used. However, there's also a discussion around the words law and legislation and acts of parliament and common law. And many people, with respect, mistakenly think that acts of parliament or legislation are somehow not law. But they very much are law. It is primary legislation, which is law. You can have secondary legislation. You can have common law, which is essentially the decisions made by courts, at least for the most part. They make up common law decisions, which interpret and apply primary legislation, secondary legislation, other statutory instruments, and even international law, but on a case-by-case basis, which form decisions, which then set precedents according to the court hierarchy, which forms a bulk of law, which should be referred to as common law. But all of the above is the law that makes up the law of England and Wales. So in the practice of law, at least in a relatively modern sense, the use of jargon has somewhat disappeared, and it's at the very least discouraged to enable everybody to understand what is being said, the contents of documents, and the arguments behind them. Of course, when a very specific word is required to really fine-tune the meaning behind it, then only a very specific word will do. But when talking about broad concepts, it very much is the meaning behind it, and at least the meaning that the people intend. So I hope that was a useful overview. Please like the video if you do like this content. Remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching.